The other thing that I know is that you have a second gimme. What is the second gimme? Is it another personal story?
Actually, it is. It is. And it's one I've been using even longer because it fit under an earlier topic that I was using. Shall we do that? This is something that happened to me a number of years ago. Many of you have had similar experiences, but I have the mic, so I'll tell my story. When my son was much younger than he is now, he asked me what may well be the most profound question a 6-year-old can ask. And I'm sure you all have various traditions that you follow, depending on your heritage and your beliefs. In my family, we celebrate Christmas. And one of the traditions we followed for many years, every Christmas, was lying to the kids. We told them about Santa Claus. And my son was almost 7 when I was tucking him into bed, and he looked at me and he said, "Daddy, is there really a Santa Claus?" Now, I wasn't entirely surprised by the question, and I wanted to be a sensitive parent, so I said, "Well, are you sure you want to talk about this?" Now, maybe it was my tone of voice, but he very quickly said no. And so we didn't, until a couple of nights later. He asked me that same question again, and I asked him the same question again. And this time he said, "I want to know the truth." I said, "Okay, well, what do you think?" "I think you and Mommy do it." He said, "You're right. We put the candy in the stockings and the gifts under the tree." There's a brief pause, and he apparently thinks of his sister. "Does Beth know?" I said, "No, I don't think so, and I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't tell her. Let's just let her figure it out for herself like you did." "I didn't figure it out. You just told me." "Oh, but you figured it out first." "Oh, okay." Another longer pause. You could almost hear the wheels turning. He looks at me right in the eye again, and he says, "Daddy, when were you planning to tell me this? When I got big and had kids of my own?" 6 years old, and he's worried about someone telling his kids about Santa and not knowing that he has to come up with the gifts and the candy. But think about what was going on in that little boy's mind. Here was someone questioning some of his most cherished beliefs about how the world worked, about what was real and not real, and about who he could trust to tell him what was real. He was indignant with me. And part of my message for you today is that we all need to do that from time to time. We need to take that step back and think about those assumptions that we carry around with us and ask ourselves, do they still work for us? Is that really the way the world works? I hope I've given you some insights into how to do that here today. And that's my close. Thank you.
So, what questions do you have for Dennis, especially as you examine the humor journey? What do you want to know that would be helpful to you? Yes?
The question was, what ethical choices did I make, and did I embellish those stories? My ethic is that if I'm messing with the humor, what else am I messing with in the mind of my audience? And I shouldn't be doing that. And so I've set a pretty bright line. There are no factual embellishments in anything I'm telling. Now, I play with it. You know, there's interpretation. There's how I make sense of that you can take all over the place, because that's not limited by the facts. Just as anything that happens in our lives is, there's fact and then there's interpretation. But I do not mess with the facts even in my humor, personally.
Thank you. Someone else?
Yeah. How often or how frequently is there a rule of thumb to use humor or stories in a presentation? The standard for humor is much higher in a keynote than it would be in a training setting. So it varies, and depending on material and what people are doing. Some people will take you on a real emotional roller coaster where part of the speech is really designed to be kind of a downer or poignant. So, that will, sort of vary that. What is the, and I forgot what the actual number is. Some of you may know this, but it's something like 3 minutes. No, it's got to be even shorter than that. Maybe it's 45 seconds. There's a cadence that every sitcom uses. There's a number for that. And I honestly don't remember it off the top of my head, but every 1 minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes, there's a laugh in a sitcom, and they know that formula, and they follow it. I don't know very many speakers that are quite that, unless they're humorous, unless they're, I mean, what Brenda was doing here today was definitely like that. But most of us, no, not near that often. And frankly, the limiter for me is material. I mean, that's the governor on my little engine, is how much material I have. I would use more humor if I had it in most of my presentations. I'm still struggling to build up that library.
David, did you have your?
Do you have any other little real tip, takeaway example of something other than rule of three that you just grab from LaCroix or anybody that's like, hey, this is something real specific I would do?
Yeah, but my mind's going completely blank at the moment.
Where's Molly? Oh, Brenda. What? Yeah, our comic of the year.
Carter's Comedy Bible.
Yes.
From the National Speakers Association.
Yes.
The Comedy Bible really goes into detail on how to write a joke.
Judy Carter's Comedy Bible. And so give us one technique, Brenda, that isn't a list of three.
3 applauses before I start. I set up by saying, thank you for, let's give a round of applause for the people who planned this event today. Okay, we start like that very quick. Let's give a round of applause for the people that grew that food, prepared that food, and served that food to us today. Oh, yay, wonderful. Okay, and so they get in that habit of applauding and laughing before I even start. So that's how I cheat.
One that comes to mind immediately that has served me since I was 3 years old, and that is, I don't let you know that what's coming up will be funny. I'm my own straight man. So I just keep talking and delivering, and if you decide it's funny, in my head, I wish you had thought so 3 and 4 words ago and 3 and 4 sentences ago, and I try not to let you know that I thought that's where you were supposed to be laughing. Well, once you get used to that dry delivery, it keeps surprising you. You're not ready for it. Molly, did you have one technique that?
I think working in the audience before you give your presentation and maybe getting a few names that you can call on during your presentation, if you're good at that interaction, and maybe after you say a funny line, then turn, isn't that right, Robin? That something like that usually gets a laugh because it's the people in the audience, they know each other, and they have fun with that. Yeah.
The other one that most of us already know is a callback. And that's simply referring to an earlier topic or comment in the same presentation or in the conversation. And sometimes just that reference back is all you need to get another laugh. People make the connection and they feel kind of clever because they get it. And so callbacks are very also, kind of a standard fare among the art of comedy.
Question. Your question is, I say something funny, and I write it down, and it's not funny any longer. And one of the things that I remembered Stevie Ray saying in the class that has stayed with me all these years is he was trying to help us understand that stand-up comics, Brenda-type comics, will work on a routine for 10 years. And we will say to each other, they're an overnight sensation. They were an overnight hit. And he said, there are no overnight hits. These people have worked it, and they've changed the and an, and they're bored to tears with their own material. But they practice with the timing, they know it works, they know it sells. Well, he said sometimes what will happen is you'll try something new set of material, stand up, say it to the group, nobody laughs. And he said, you thought it was funny when you wrote it, keep working it. Keep working it. And the other thing he said was trust your content. And those are the two things that help me as a speaker. I get up today. This is all new for us today, and we're all feeling our way while you're on break. We're like, what the hell are we doing next? Anybody have any idea? Oh, see, that didn't go either. So there you go. So trust your content. When I stand back from what we've spent many weeks preparing, and I prepare to be in front of you, I think, okay, you thought it was good when you wrote it. Trust it. Trust the content. You've held the people in mind this whole time. And then if you get up, some of it fails, some of it works. Just keep trusting the content. And that's the last piece that I would say to all of you is take the risk. Got to take the risk and fail. Yes?
Can I, before we jump away from this, let me jump in, just because there is something that occurred to me that I've learned recently. at least I've been reminded of it recently. When you retell something and it isn't working, what's frequently missing is an adequate premise. There's something about the context and what was going on at that time that you don't think you have to include, but you do for other people to fully appreciate what happened. So if it's not working, that would be the first place to look for a gap. What have I not told people about what was going on in that environment that created, you know, a logical sequence or a context for that? So that's just, you know, pure technique.
Mark?
Yeah, Dennis, would you tell us how you developed your well-renowned reputation for slapstick?
What?
Well, thank you, Mark. And with that, thank you very much. Warm round of applause for Dennis Stauffer.